The moment the newborn baby girl let out her first weak cry, the room fell into an uncomfortable silence. The mother turned her head away almost immediately, her face pale, lips pressed tight as if holding back something sharp and ugly. The father stood rigid near the wall, eyes fixed not on the child but on the window, as though the gray sky outside could offer an escape. The doctor gently lifted the tiny bundle, waiting for the instinctive reach, the soft question, the spark of connection that usually followed birth. None came. "We can't take her," the mother said at last, her voice flat and distant, as if she were talking about a broken object, not a living being. "Please, just do what you have to do." The words hung in the air, heavy and irreversible. The nurse tightened her grip on the baby, instinctively rocking her to soften the cruelty of the moment. The father nodded once, sharply, as though confirming a business decision. Papers were signed. Explanations were avoided. In the file, someone wrote a single word that would define the child's entire beginning: abandoned. She was named Anna because the orphanage needed a name, any name, and Anna was short, common, easy to pronounce. No one asked what her parents had wanted to call her. No one wondered who she might become. Anna's earliest memories were not of faces but of sounds. The echo of footsteps in long corridors, the metallic clink of keys, the synchronized crying of babies at night. The orphanage ran on routine, not affection. Children were fed, washed, dressed, and disciplined, but rarely held without purpose. Hugs were inefficient. Love was a luxury the staff could not afford. As Anna grew, she learned to observe rather than demand. She noticed how kindness came and went with volunteers, how promises dissolved as easily as they were made. When other children cried for parents who never returned, Anna stayed quiet, staring at the ceiling, counting cracks, memorizing patterns. Somewhere deep inside, she decided that expecting nothing hurt less. School came and went. Teachers described her as capable but withdrawn. She learned quickly, especially when left alone with books. Reading became her refuge, a way to step into lives that had direction and meaning. But when graduation from the orphanage approached, there were no celebrations, no plans laid out for her future. At 18, she was given a small bag, a few documents, and directions to a shared dormitory for former orphans. The outside world was loud, fast, and indifferent. Jobs were temporary, poorly paid, and exhausting. Anna worked in cafes, warehouses, laundries, anywhere that didn't ask too many questions about her past. She learned to keep her head down, to accept unfair treatment, to disappear into the background. Eventually, she found steady work as a cleaning lady in a large business center downtown. The building was all glass and steel, a monument to success. During the day, people in expensive suits hurried through its halls, talking about investments, contracts, and numbers so large they felt unreal. At night, when Anna worked, the building belonged to silence and fluorescent lights. She pushed her cart from floor to floor, wiping desks, emptying trash bins, polishing surfaces until they reflected a version of the world she was not part of. No one noticed her, and that suited her fine. But Anna noticed everything. She noticed which offices stayed lit late into the night, which executives argued behind closed doors, which documents were left carelessly on desks. She had developed the habit of reading, at first out of boredom, then out of curiosity. Financial reports, emails, presentations. Much of it was complex, but Anna was patient. She looked up terms, remembered patterns, compared numbers. One evening, while cleaning an executive office, she found a stack of printed documents half covered by a coffee cup ring. As she wiped the desk, her eyes caught a discrepancy. A number repeated across several pages didn't match the totals at the end. She frowned, pulled the papers closer, and checked again. The error wasn't small. It was the kind of mistake that could either destroy a company, or hide something far worse. Anna's heart began to race. She told herself it was none of her business. She was just a cleaner. People like her didn't point out mistakes in million-dollar contracts. People like her were ignored or punished for speaking up. She folded the papers back into place and moved on. But she couldn't forget what she had seen. All night, numbers floated through her mind. By morning, she knew the mistake wasn't accidental. It was deliberate. The next evening, after hours of inner debate, Anna approached the night supervisor and asked, hesitantly, who she could talk to about a possible issue she had noticed. The supervisor laughed, assuming she meant a broken light or a leaking pipe. When Anna insisted, she was waved off. "Stick to your job," he said. That should have been the end of it. Instead, Anna sent an anonymous email from a public computer, carefully outlining the discrepancy, attaching photos she had taken of the documents. She expected nothing. She went back to work, bracing herself for consequences. They came quickly, but not in the way she feared. Within days, the office buzzed with tension. Audits were launched. Meetings ran late. Faces looked strained. Then, one night, Anna was called into an office she had only ever cleaned. Several executives sat around a table, their expressions a mix of curiosity and disbelief. "You sent the email," one of them said. It wasn't a question. Anna nodded, her hands clenched in her lap. They questioned her for hours. How had she noticed? What did she know? Why had she cared? She answered honestly, simply. She didn't claim credit. She didn't ask for reward. The investigation uncovered a massive financial fraud. The company was saved from collapse. Legal action followed. Careers ended. Fortunes vanished. And Anna's life changed forever. She was offered a proper job, training, education, a chance she had never imagined. As background checks were completed, someone dug deeper into her file, tracing her history further back than anyone ever had. Old hospital records surfaced. Names appeared. One of the company's silent investors, a powerful figure who had never shown interest in daily operations, stared at the file in disbelief. Dates matched. Details aligned too perfectly to ignore. The cleaning lady he had never noticed was the child he had once walked away from. When they finally met, there were no dramatic confrontations, no tears. Just two adults sitting across from each other, separated by 20 years of silence and choices that could never be undone. He tried to speak, to explain, to justify. Anna listened politely. "I'm not here to take anything from you," she said calmly. "I already built myself from nothing." She stood up, thanked him for his time, and walked out. For the first time in her life, Anna felt light. She wasn't defined by abandonment anymore. She wasn't invisible. She had a future shaped by her own decisions, not by the moment someone else decided she wasn't worth keeping. The moment the newborn baby girl let out her first trembling cry, the delivery room seemed to shrink under the weight of an unspoken decision. The mother turned her face toward the wall, refusing to look again, as if the sight of the child might weaken her resolve. Her hands clenched the sheets, knuckles white, while her breathing remained shallow and uneven. The father stood several steps away, arms crossed tightly over his chest, staring at the sterile floor tiles. He did not move closer. He did not ask if the baby was healthy. His silence said more than any words could. The doctor hesitated, holding the tiny bundle carefully, instinctively waiting for the parents to react. Usually there was joy, relief, tears. This time there was only tension. The nurse shifted uncomfortably, gently rocking the baby as if trying to shield her from the coldness in the room. "We can't," the mother finally said, her voice barely above a whisper, yet firm enough to end the discussion. "We can't take her." The words landed heavily. The father nodded once, sharply, as though approving a business deal rather than abandoning his own child. No explanations followed. No reasons were offered. The necessary papers were brought in and signed without hesitation. In the hospital records, a single word appeared beside the baby's name: abandoned. She was named Anna because the orphanage required a name, and Anna was simple, neutral, and easy to assign. It carried no memory, no expectation. Just a label to mark her existence. Anna's earliest days passed in a white-painted room filled with identical cribs. The air smelled of disinfectant and formula. Crying was constant, blending into a dull background noise that never fully disappeared. Caregivers moved efficiently, performing their duties with practiced precision. Babies were fed on schedule, changed, bathed, and laid back down. There was little time for lingering affection. As Anna grew, she learned quickly that crying did not bring comfort. It brought annoyance. So she became quiet. She watched instead. She memorized faces, tones of voice, footsteps in the hallway. She noticed which caregivers were gentle and which were not. She learned when to stay invisible. When she was old enough to walk, Anna followed the routines without protest. Meals were eaten quickly. Toys were shared reluctantly. Fights broke out often among children desperate for attention. Anna usually stayed on the sidelines, clutching a book or a small object she had claimed as her own. She didn't expect anyone to choose her, and that expectation, or lack of it, became her shield. School revealed her sharp mind. She absorbed information easily, especially when allowed to read on her own. Teachers noted her intelligence but worried about her distance. She rarely spoke unless asked. She didn't cause trouble, but she didn't shine socially either. While other children dreamed aloud about being adopted, Anna never voiced such hopes. She had learned early that hope could be cruel. The years passed quietly. One by one, children left the orphanage, some adopted, some sent to foster families. Anna stayed. By the time she turned 16, she was one of the oldest residents. Younger children looked at her with a mix of respect and pity. She helped them with homework, showed them how to avoid trouble, how not to get hurt. When her 18th birthday arrived, it passed without celebration. She was given a small bag containing her documents, a few clothes, and a list of temporary housing options. The door closed behind her, and just like that, her childhood ended. Life outside was harsher than she had imagined. The city was loud, fast, and unforgiving. Anna moved through it cautiously, taking whatever work she could find. She washed dishes, stocked shelves, cleaned rooms. Employers rarely looked at her twice. She was replaceable, invisible, and easily dismissed. Eventually, she found steady employment as a cleaning lady in a large business center. The building towered over the street, all glass and steel, reflecting the sky and the city lights. During the day, it was alive with energy, people in tailored suits rushing between meetings, talking about profits, losses, and futures that seemed far removed from Anna's reality. At night, the building transformed. The noise faded. The offices emptied. Only the hum of machines and the echo of her footsteps remained. Anna worked methodically, floor by floor, office by office. She learned the layout by heart. She knew which doors creaked, which lights flickered, which desks were cluttered and which were obsessively clean. She also noticed things others didn't bother to see. Leftover documents, open computer screens, notes scribbled in margins. At first, she glanced only briefly, but curiosity grew. She began reading during breaks, then while cleaning, carefully placing everything back exactly as she found it. Numbers, charts, contracts, most of it meant nothing at first. But Anna was patient. She compared documents. She noticed inconsistencies. One night, in an executive office on the top floor, she found a stack of printed financial reports left carelessly on the desk. As she wiped away dust, her eyes caught a repeated figure that didn't align with the totals. She frowned, reading more closely. The discrepancy wasn't small. It was significant. Her pulse quickened. She checked another page. The same issue appeared. This wasn't a simple mistake. Something was being hidden. Anna told herself to ignore it. She reminded herself who she was, a cleaner, not an analyst. People like her didn't interfere in corporate affairs. Speaking up could cost her the only stability she had. She finished her shift, but sleep wouldn't come. Numbers swirled in her mind. By morning, she was certain. It was fraud. The following night, she approached her supervisor carefully and mentioned she had noticed something unusual in one of the offices. He laughed, assuming she meant a maintenance issue. When she tried to explain further, his expression hardened. "Just do your job," he said. "Don't get ideas above your position." Anna nodded and walked away. Fear settled in her chest, but so did determination. Using a public computer at a library, she sent an anonymous email to the company's internal audit department. She explained what she had seen, attaching photos she had discreetly taken. She didn't include her name. She didn't expect a response. Within days, the atmosphere in the building changed. Executives whispered. Meetings stretched late into the night. Security increased. Auditors arrived. Then Anna was called in. She sat stiffly in a conference room she had cleaned dozens of times, facing people who finally looked directly at her. They asked how she had noticed the issue. Why she cared. What she understood. She answered honestly. She had nothing to hide. The investigation uncovered a massive financial scheme that had been draining company resources for years. The fallout was immediate and severe. Lawsuits followed. Careers ended. Anna was offered training and a new position. For the first time, someone saw her not as invisible labor, but as a capable mind. During a deeper background check, her file raised questions. Hospital records surfaced. Dates matched. A powerful investor, someone whose name appeared frequently in board discussions, requested a meeting. When Anna entered the room, she didn't recognize him. But he recognized her. The truth emerged quietly, painfully. He had been her father. There were no tears. No dramatic apologies. Just silence and regret that came 20 years too late. I didn't come for answers, Anna said calmly. I came because I earned my place here. She left the room without looking back. For the first time, her past no longer defined her. She walked forward knowing that she had built herself from abandonment into strength, and that was something no one could ever take away. The moment the newborn baby girl released her first thin, fragile cry, the delivery room filled with a tension so thick it felt almost physical. The sound should have been a beginning, a promise of life, but instead it marked an ending. The mother lay rigid on the bed, her face turned sharply toward the wall, as though even a glance at the child might undo the decision she had already made. Her dark hair clung damply to her temples, and her eyes were open but unfocused, staring at nothing. The father stood near the door, hands shoved deep into his coat pockets. He had not taken off his jacket. He had not moved closer. His jaw was tight, his shoulders stiff, his gaze fixed somewhere above the doctor's head, refusing to acknowledge what was happening just a few feet away. The doctor hesitated, holding the tiny bundle carefully, waiting for the instinctive reach that never came. She's healthy, the doctor said gently, offering an opening, a chance. There was a long pause. Then the mother spoke, her voice low and hollow, stripped of warmth. We can't keep her. The nurse froze for a moment, instinctively pulling the baby closer to her chest. The infant's tiny fingers curled weakly, grasping at the air. The father nodded once, sharply, as if confirming a decision already finalized in his mind. No explanation followed. No tears. No questions. Forms were brought in. Pens were passed over. Signatures appeared quickly, without hesitation. The nurse looked away as the final paper was signed. In the hospital file, a single word was written beside the child's temporary identification number: abandoned. She was named Anna because the system required a name, and Anna was simple, neutral, easy. It belonged to no one and offended no one. It carried no story, no inheritance, no promise. Her first weeks passed in a ward filled with identical cribs lined up in neat rows. The air smelled of disinfectant and formula, a constant sterile sharpness that clung to everything. Cries echoed day and night, overlapping into a dull, ceaseless noise. Nurses moved efficiently from one crib to another, lifting babies, feeding them, changing them, laying them back down. There was no time to linger. Affection was rationed carefully, spread thin among too many small bodies. Anna learned early that crying did not bring comfort. It brought irritation. So she grew quiet. She stared instead, wide-eyed and alert, watching faces, tracking movements, memorizing patterns. She noticed which nurses handled her gently and which were rough. She noticed how quickly people came and went. As she grew older, the world remained structured and cold. Meals were eaten at the same time every day. Walks were taken in straight lines. Toys were shared, fought over, broken, and replaced. Children clung to visitors, desperate for attention, desperate to be chosen. Anna watched them with a distant curiosity. Somewhere deep inside her, a small voice whispered that wanting too much was dangerous. School revealed her sharp intelligence. She learned to read quickly, devouring books whenever she could get her hands on them. Stories became her refuge, places where people belonged somewhere, where choices mattered, where endings meant something. Teachers praised her work but worried about her silence. She rarely raised her hand. She never volunteered personal details. When asked about her parents, she shrugged. I don't have any, she said simply. The years passed quietly. Children came and went. Anna stayed. By 16, she was one of the oldest in the orphanage, helping younger children tie their shoes, explaining homework, warning them which corners to avoid and which adults to trust. She had learned how to survive without being seen. When she turned 18, there was no celebration. No cake. No farewell speeches. She was handed a thin folder containing her documents, a small bag with her belongings, and directions to a temporary dormitory for former orphans. The door closed behind her, and just like that, the place that had raised her let her go. The city was overwhelming. Noise pressed in from all sides. Cars, voices, sirens, footsteps. People moved quickly, purposefully, as if pulled by invisible strings. Anna felt small among them, cautious and unsure. She took whatever work she could find. Cafes, warehouses, laundries. The work was hard and thankless. She was paid little, spoken to less, and replaced easily. Eventually, she found stability as a cleaning lady in a large business center. The building was massive, all glass and steel, towering above the street like a monument to ambition. During the day, it buzzed with life, men and women in tailored suits rushing through polished corridors, talking about deals, profits, losses, futures that felt unreal to Anna. At night, the building belonged to silence. The hum of fluorescent lights replaced the daytime chatter. Anna pushed her cleaning cart slowly from floor to floor, her footsteps echoing softly. She learned the building intimately, the squeak of certain doors, the offices that stayed lit late, the ones that were always locked. No one noticed her. She was part of the background, a moving shadow. And that was exactly how she survived. But Anna noticed everything. She noticed documents left carelessly on desks, notes scribbled in margins, numbers highlighted and circled. At first, she glanced only out of boredom. Then curiosity took hold. She had always loved patterns, connections. She began reading during breaks, then while cleaning, carefully placing everything back exactly as she found it. One night, in an executive office high above the city, she found a stack of printed financial reports half covered by a coffee ring. As she wiped the desk, her eyes caught a repeated figure that didn't align with the totals. She frowned, leaning closer. She checked another page. The same discrepancy appeared again. Her heart began to race. This wasn't a small error. It was deliberate. Anna told herself to ignore it. She reminded herself of her place. People like her didn't interfere in corporate affairs. Speaking up could cost her the only stability she had. She finished her shift, but sleep wouldn't come. Numbers swirled in her mind. By morning, she knew she couldn't forget what she had seen. The next night, she cautiously mentioned to her supervisor that she had noticed something unusual in one of the offices. He laughed, assuming she meant a broken chair or flickering light. When she tried to explain further, his expression hardened. "Stick to your job," he said. "Don't get ideas." Fear settled in her chest, but so did resolve. Using a public library computer, Anna sent an anonymous email to the company's internal audit department. She explained the discrepancy clearly, attaching photos she had discreetly taken. She didn't include her name. She didn't expect a reply. Within days, the building changed. Tension filled the air. Executives whispered in hallways. Meetings ran late. Auditors arrived. Security tightened. Then Anna was summoned. She sat in a conference room she had cleaned countless times, facing people who finally looked directly at her. They asked how she had noticed. Why she cared. What she understood. She answered calmly, honestly. She had nothing to lose. The investigation uncovered a massive financial fraud. The fallout was swift and brutal. Careers ended. Lawsuits followed. The company was saved from collapse. Anna was offered training, education, a new position. For the first time, someone saw her not as invisible labor, but as a mind worth investing in. During a deeper background check, her file raised questions. Old hospital records surfaced. Names appeared. Dates aligned too perfectly to ignore. A powerful investor requested a meeting. When Anna entered the room, she didn't recognize him. But he recognized her immediately. The resemblance was undeniable. The truth emerged slowly, painfully. He had been her father. There were no tears. No dramatic apologies. Just silence heavy with regret. "I didn't come here for explanations," Anna said quietly. "I came because I earned my place." She stood, thanked him politely, and left. Walking out of the building that night, Anna felt lighter than she ever had. Her past no longer defined her. She had been abandoned, but she had survived, learned, and built herself into someone strong. And this time, she was walking forward by choice.